The Planning Institute of Jamaica, PIOJ, has delivered worrying news about the Jamaican economy and society. Effectively, what the PIOJ is saying is this: the number of young people in the country declining, the number of older people growing rapidly, people living longer, people extending their working lives longer. What we're going to have the future suggests is a lot of people who are going to be pensionable, who the state will have to care for, and not many young people to replenish the army of workers that a country needs to sustain itself. So that's the key: sustainability. What is the route to sustainability? How can this rebalancing of the population and the demographics of the population be effected by those with the authority to so do? That's the subject today on Lead Story on CVM TV. Let's start the show. Welcome to Lead Story here on CVM TV on this Wednesday. You know, Jamaica is sitting on a time bomb, and that time bomb is not of the usual kind. It's an issue that has never confronted this society before, but it certainly is in play right now and is set to cause serious problems in the future. The issue concerns the aging population and the plunging, not even declining, because decline suggests something gradual. It's almost a plunging birth rate, which are compounding plans for the workforce of the future. The Director General of the Planning Institute of Jamaica, the gentleman, Dr. Wayne Henry, has outlined and summed up perfectly well, I believe, what the situation is. Let's hear him.
Since the implementation of the revised National Population Policy in 1995, the demographic situation of Jamaica has changed significantly. There has been low or negative absolute growth of the population, a substantial reduction in the child population, and notable increases in the working age and elderly populations, a reduction in fertility among all reproductive age groups, high levels of urbanization and growth of the population in urban centers, and declines in rural areas, and high levels of international migration among professionals and skilled workers, thereby creating shortages in critical fields, including education, health, IT, and related areas. These notable changes in Jamaica's demographic landscape necessitated a comprehensive revision of the 1995 National Population Policy. The revised policy framework was geared towards accounting for demographic and population shifts, as well as fully acknowledging emerging issues and creating an enabling environment for national aspirations for sustainable population development. The 2025 State of the World Population Report is entitled "The Real Fertility Crisis: The Pursuit of Reproductive Agency in a Changing World," and it advocates for reproductive empowerment, the freedom to decide if, when, and how many children to have. The findings of this report are also intertwined with key issues emerging from the revised National Population Policy and provides useful guidelines for addressing reproductive agency at the juncture of below replacement level fertility. It should be noted that the UNFPA provided funding for the monitoring and evaluation framework and implementation plan for the policy.
Don't want to be sound alarmist, but in real terms, be afraid, be very afraid. If you've been paying attention to what's been happening in Asia, South Korea, Japan, where the aging population has policymakers scratching their heads about how to effect measures that counterbalance the way the trends are drifting, it's a serious concern, and it will be the issue that societies will have to deal with 10, 15 years from now. After the break, we'll hear from a senior official at the PIOJ about just how we are going to effect that process of rebalancing.
We work hard to develop state-of-the-art security solutions like our new Total Connect smart home automation system that gives you 24/7 access to control your appliances, lights, cameras, and doors using your smartphone, tablet, or PC. As the most trusted electronic security company in Jamaica, Hawkeye has the fastest response times to get to you when you need us most. Trust Hawkeye's Total Connect. Hawkeye, securing what matters most.
Join us next week when we conclude our discussion on the growth of the Morgans Group and how it has benefited from various initiatives undertaken by the Tourism Enhancement Fund, the TEF, including through its Tourism Linkages Network.
Not a sexy topic at all, but its importance. I hope that after today's program, many of you who are not yet in the know about the situation will be suitably informed, not frightened to the challenge that awaits us in the not so far future. I can tell you that Marika Brown Bailey is Director in charge of Population and Health at the Planning Institute of Jamaica, and she joins me this evening. Good evening, Marika Brown Bailey. How are you? Good evening. Not seem to be hearing from her. All right, so we're trying to refresh our connection because I think we have her now. Marika Brown Bailey, good evening.
Good evening, George. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you here. All right, so we're not intending to scare our audience this evening, but Marika, I suspect that the things that you'll be able to share will cause people much concern and cause them to engage their brains as they think about what the future will look like if we don't change course. So in terms of the country's population and the population growth rate and the fertility rate, give us the very latest data that the PIOJ has on those important areas.
Okay, so our latest projections of the population done by the PIOJ, and let me add that at this time that the Statistical Institute of Jamaica is the main agency responsible for population data. Notwithstanding, we have been doing our projections and have been putting out provisional data on the population. And the latest Economic and Social Survey of Jamaica, which is a publication done by the PIOJ, has indicated that as at 2024, our population is around 2.7 million people. And this is indicative of 0.1% growth. So we are seeing that our population is declining. As it relates to the age structure within the population, we have recognized that our child population is declining, our working age population is increasing, and our elderly population is increasing. So what that means is that we are now classified as an aging society. Our population is currently aging. And that means that persons, the amount of persons of 65 years and over has been gradually increasing over the last 15 to 20 years. So as we look at this particular data, there are some serious implications for the country. And as a country, we need to look at this specifically to see how best we address these particular issues.
Right. Okay, Marika, how many children is each woman having in 2025 or the time of the most recent study? How many children per woman now compared to other periods in the country's history?
So our fertility rate, based on the last reproductive health survey that was conducted by the National Family Planning Board, in 2021 indicates that our fertility rate is 1.9. So that means that each woman is having at least one child, and our fertility rate is expected to be, or should be, at least 2.1. So we should be reproducing, or each woman should be replacing both herself and her partner. However, we have women only replacing themselves. So our fertility rate has also fallen, and that is indicative of the fact that we are not having as much children as is required for us to be repopulating the country.
Okay.
So our fertility rate is also declining.
Very well. And in terms of the urban-rural spread, are rural women having more children than women in the urban areas?
Well, in terms of the urban-rural spread, I will not speak specifically to that, no, but we understand that there are a number of issues and when we look at the differences between rural and urban, we can deduce that based on some socioeconomic issues that affect our rural communities as opposed to those that affect our urban communities, there will be a decline in the number of children that are being born to women, particularly in the urban centers.
Okay, all right. And in terms of the issue of teenage pregnancy, for much of my lifetime there have been campaigns against teenage pregnancy, warning youngsters to be safe or to abstain. That's been the main message. Is the rate of teenage pregnancy falling, and has it fallen to where the international standards suggest it should be?
So as I indicated before, our general fertility rate has fallen, but we still have an issue with adolescent fertility. So generally, fertility rate has fallen, but we do not want to have a situation where our young persons or adolescents are still having children, because that has implications for their own development, and that has implications for us as a society. So we still have an issue with adolescent fertility.
The connection froze just a little bit. They were trying to refresh that. But just to skip through the main points, 3 main points on this bulletin. And the fertility rate, 72 births per 1,000 women, and 15 to 19 years in 2008, falling from 79 to 72. Look at that. The fertility rate, 112 births per 1,000 women in 1997. Look at that. 112 births per 1,000 women in 1997, fell to 79 in 2002, and it's now 72 in the most recent survey. So the decline between 97 and 2000 and 2002 was very, very sharp, and it continues on the downward trend. So these are alarming things that we are seeing here. All right, Marika, I understand that you're back with me. All right, so we've looked at some key numbers, numbers that I'm sure people would ask for off the top of their heads. Now the discussion moves along to what are the implications for fertility trending the way it is, for the population falling the way it has fallen, and for what are the implications for those who plan, people like yourself at the PIOJ, and what should governments now be worried about and move to start fixing given what the data is showing?
So thank you, George. So I just want to backtrack a little bit and speak to the reason for us revising the national national population and sustainability. And we recognize that, so this particular policy is a revision of the 1995 policy. We recognize that there were quite we had a number of gains from the 1995 policy, but as we have advanced and the context has changed, we recognize that there are a number of challenges of population and demographic issues that we need to address. And as you indicated before, they include the decline in fertility, the issues pertaining to immigration and migration, international migration generally, issues pertaining to urbanization and people moving out of rural communities or rural settings and moving into to urban setting, we also recognize that the population is declining and the population is aging. So what we recognize is that these have implications for not only our social development, but our economic development.
Stick up in, Marika. Stick up in. I want to take the break and come right back so that I don't disturb you when you're going into the implications. This is Lead Story here on CVM TV. Back with more after this.
Is paving the way to becoming a republic or future or choice. The time by the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs is
6:45.
Every dream conquered is another dream game. I land and I fly again like a jet plane. Headed straight in your direction. 'Cause I'm wiser, one step closer. I'm winning 'cause I work so hard. And the music is I play and the people them I say we are my show tonight.
Everybody, I'm Yendi, and this is Odyssey with Yendi. In this space, we connect with some of your favorite people as they share their journeys. Here we have some unfiltered conversations as we deep dive into their inspirations, motivations, and experiences to inspire our own life journey.
Odyssey with Yendi, brought to you by Grace and Singer.
Welcome back to Lead Story here on CVM TV, talking about the National Population and Sustainable Development Policy 1995 document. Will have to be refreshed because things have changed over the intervening years, and the data is suggesting that the future needs significant, well, the present needs significant realignment if the future is to yield positive results for us in terms of a population that is able to work and an elderly population that structures and systems are put in place to cater for, given that there'll be so many more older people in Jamaica in 10, 15 years than there are now, than there has ever been in the country's history. Think of the country's population as a piece of a stick that is 5 feet long, and it has different color codes indicating different sections, different age segments. Never before has the age segment of the elderly been as big as it is now, and it is set to be in the future. And that, of course, is cause for concern, not panic, just concern, and the right and the appropriate actions being taken. I'm having that discussion right here now with Marika Brown-Bailey, Director of Population and Health at the PIOJ. So, Marika, before I disturbed you for the break, you were talking to me about the implications from the data that you shared in the first segment. Marika?
Yes, I am here. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you now. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so I was speaking to the implications of the dynamics, the population dynamics that we're currently seeing. And I want to speak or zoom in specifically on health implications, particularly because we have been highlighting that we have an aging population. And when we speak to the issue of health, these have significant impacts on our healthcare system. There will be an increased demand for services that if we do not put specific things in place, we would not be able to address the health implications, the health issues that our older population will face. Of course, there will be a strain on healthcare financing. So because there is the need now to implement or to improve our healthcare system, there will be a need to be able to finance that. Of course, with an aging population, there's going to be increase in chronic diseases. And how is it that we're going to be preventing that? There will also now be a need for us to shift in terms of our workforce and what that workforce will look like. What are the services that the workforce will be required to have in place, the skill sets that are going to be required. There are going to be implications for our social protection system, for our social security system, and for our pension system to ensure that when even us within the working age, when we reach to that level where we will require pension, that there is income security. So there are a number of implications as we look at the workforce becoming smaller eventually. There will be a shrink, and this can potentially stifle innovation and technologies. We will now have to look at how we pivot to ensure that technological innovation and STEM education is incorporated more holistically into our education system. So there are a number of social and economic implications of the current population dynamic that we're seeing. We're also seeing the emigration rather of our skilled workers, and that also has implications for our workforce. How is it that we can now pivot to ensure that we have sufficient professionals and skilled persons within the country to be able to supply the workforce? So as we look at the particular dynamics, we have to now begin to think critically and think strategically at how our policies and the plans and programs that we're implementing can support the current population structure that we are seeing.
Question for you. With the situation as it is it that we are likely, not too long from now, to see a sort of reverse messaging where pregnancy is concerned? And when I say reverse messaging, obviously the messaging has been for decades two is better than too many, not to have too many, not to have out your lot as generations before did. Could we see a reverse messaging where the state could now start promoting the having of children, encouraging people to so do, and putting in structures in place to facilitate more women having more children to replenish the population?
So I want us to be careful about speaking to reverse messaging. We do not want to go to a place where we're encouraging persons just to go out and have their lot. What we have to do is strategically look at the issues and the structural issues that are there, that are the structural gaps rather, that prevent or that does not support having children. So what we need to put in place are the supporting mechanisms, the enabling environment, the policies that support family, the policies that support care, the policies that speak to putting things in place that will encourage you to have children, because we cannot tell persons to go out and have out their lot without putting specific things in place to support that type of messaging, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. So we have to look specifically at what is there and put the supporting mechanisms in place. The supporting mechanisms, of course, may be from a policy perspective, but going down to programmatic implementation of what would be required. And having those structures in place that would support having children and expanding your family. Yeah. It is also an economic issue. Yes. What are the economic structures that will support having 2 or 3 children? Many young persons that we have interacted with have said to us, I would like to, but I just cannot afford at this time. So what are the workforce policies that are in place? How is it that we're putting structures in place to economically support having families and increasing, so to speak, the fertility rate there?
Yeah, well, Parliament at least has done something significant. A Joint Select Committee recently finished reviewing the Elderly Care and Protection Act, which we understand will be fast-tracked in the life of the next Parliament. That's one thing. And also, the issue of elderly care and protection. I mean, you have civil society groups which have now been formed to advocate for the elderly. So segments of the society are seeing the need to treat this thing seriously. Last thing before you go, Marika, the problem that Jamaica is having with the declining birth rate and aging population, are we alone in this region, in the world? How significant is this issue for countries?
So we are not alone. We have seen where Asian countries and a significant amount of countries in the north have been experiencing aging of the population for some time. The Caribbean region has, in about the last 20 years, have also been experiencing this, the Latin American and Caribbean region. And the reports have indicated to us, the data have indicated to us that this is not a unique situation to Jamaica, it's not unique to the Caribbean region, and it's not unique globally. Across the world, there are about 2 continents that are not right now experiencing population aging, and one is the African continent. So with that being said, we know that globally, this is an issue that we have been facing for some time now, and what we need to do is to look specifically at putting the policy frameworks and the programs in place to support the aging of the population and support the increase in the infertility rate.
Hear you on that. Marika Brown-Bailey, Director, Population and Health at the Planning Institute of Jamaica. Thank you very much for your time this evening. Really appreciated it.
Thank you so much.
That's it for Lead Story here on CVM TV on this Wednesday. The news at 7.